My very first Sleeping Beauty storybook. Adapted by Rochelle Larkin, illustrated by Yvette Banek. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away lived a very unhappy king and queen. They had everything they wanted except what they wanted most. A child who would grow up to rule the kingdom after them. When at long last they learned that they were going to have a baby, they were beside themselves with joy. And when a little baby girl was born to them, the happy queen invited all the spirits of the land to come and bless the child with the greatest gifts of life. But the queen forgot to ask one of the most powerful spirits of all to come to the celebration. This evil spirit hid outside on a balcony. As one by one the other spirits blessed the baby princess. One wished her music and stories. One wished her the gift of love and to be loved. Just as the last spirit started to wish the baby long life, the evil spirit jumped in through the window. "No!" she screamed. "She will live only so long as she never lets fall even one drop of her own blood. Even from the tiniest prick of her finger, she'll die." All of the court drew back in shock. The queen nearly fainted in the arms of the king. A curse once made could never be taken away. Suddenly, a spirit so little that she was sometimes overlooked by the others forced her way through. Small as she was a very strong spirit. This brave little spirit could not completely erase the curse, but she could soften it. "The princesses will not really die," she declared. "She shall only fall into a deep sleep for 100 years until she is awakened by love's sweet kiss." No longer could the stitches stitch or the seamstresses seam. No more embroidery or needlepoint or anything. Every last spinning wheel, spindle and pointy needle had to be destroyed lest the terrible curse take effect on the little princess. But the evil spirit had one more trick up her sleeve. She hid a damaged spinning wheel in a dark room in the tallest tower of the palace. She left the spinning wheel in the tower and flew home. The princess grew up happily in the no-needle kingdom. 20 years passed quickly. The people had almost forgotten what spinning wheels were, and the princess herself had never ever seen one. She busied herself around the palace and the kingdom, learning everything she could. She loved her people, and the people loved the beautiful, caring princess. One day, while exploring the palace, she wandered into a hallway she had never noticed before. A stairway at the far end caught her eye. The curious princess ran to the stairs and climbed up. A shimmering web hung in front of an ancient door. She brushed it aside and stepped into the dark room. A slit of a window high in the tower wall let a bit of light into the gloom. The princess stepped carefully around the old furniture and heaps of broken things. A large round object stood slightly in a corner. It was fastened to a narrow board with a tall rod. The princess wondered what it was. She had never seen anything like it before. When the princess touched the tip of the needle with her finger, she felt a sting and saw a drop of blood. Instantly, a flash of light exploded in the room. The princess sank to the floor. She fell fast asleep, and no one could awaken her. The sleeping princess was placed on a great gold bed with a silken veil fluttering from the canopy and enclosing her. All of the court wept, but not for long. In order for the princess not to feel strange whenever she awakened from the curse, the brave little spirit who always watched over her put the entire court and kingdom to sleep. The king and the queen on their thrones, the soldiers at the stations, the footmen and kitchen maids, all were put to sleep in their accustomed places. The ladies in waiting would have a long time to wait. All activity inside and outside the palace stopped. With no one to trim the trees or tend the gardens, a forest grew up, and bushes and vines covered everything. Before many years, the palace was concealed. Before many more years, it and all inside it were forgotten. Many years later, a lone traveler approached the dense tangle enclosing the palace. It was a handsome prince from a faraway kingdom. He and his horse had ridden many miles that day and were in search of a place to rest. The prince thought he had seen the top of a tower as he came down from a nearby mountain. Now he wasn't so sure, but he was determined to find out if it was for real or if his eyes had tricked him. With his sword, the prince hacked and chopped his way through. Suddenly, he spied the great front door. He was right, it was a palace. But a very old palace, he thought. A sword in hand, he made his way. The old wood groaned and the bolts creaked, but at last he was inside. The bold young prince could scarcely believe his eyes at the sight of the sleeping courtiers. Everything and everyone looked at another time, yet still so rich and beautiful. Most beautiful of all was the princess who lay sleeping on a golden bed. The prince could not resist. He lifted the silken veil and kissed the sleeping beauty. Her eyes fluttered open. Everyone in the palace came back to life. Even the waxen candles were magically relit, and by the light, the prince could see that the awakening princess was even lovelier than he had thought. And so, by love's own sweet kiss, the dust of 100 years dissolved, and the prince and the princess and all the court lived happily ever after. The end.